Welcome back to another episode of our Eagle Perspective podcast. I'm Mike Siciliano, Dean of Students of the Upper School. I am joined today by the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. John Salyer.
You know him, you love him, you can't live without him, right?
So, I mean, I can't deny. So, just so people know, so you were my teacher.
Yes, I was. I was blessed
for
to have you.
Several years.
Yes.
And so you have a lot of dirt on me.
Yes.
Let's start with that.
You have just as much on me.
True. All right. So, is there an unspoken agreement?
Yes, mutual assured destruction.
Great.
We're going to keep it.
That's good. And I would say I'm going to share this with our audience that when I was going through my whole career thing of thinking about what am I going to do. Do you remember this?
I do.
So we went over there to Fidel's. And I asked you about being a teacher, right?
Yes.
And you talked me into it.
I'm sorry about that.
What were you thinking?
I know, I'm so sorry.
Like, come on, I'm just kidding. It was a great decision of my life.
Yeah,
so.
no, we were desperately in need of good, godly men, and you were one of my top 5.
And you couldn't find any,
so we found you.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, you've had an amazing impact on this place. So we're going to talk today just to kind of tease, we're going to be talking largely about broadcast and SFCtv, and which is the program that basically you started, right? And are still running along with Amy Kennard and some others. But you've had a number of roles here. So why don't you share with our audience when you came to Santa Fe and the various things that you've done here?
So I came in 88 was my first year. Mm-hmm. And so this is 34 years?
Yeah, I was 5.
Shut up. Yeah, and I came over from the public school system. I had no understanding of how my in-laws were affiliated with the school. I just came over. John Couch called me, had lunch at Fidel's, and he hired me on the spot.
Yeah,
and came to taught history and coach football and basketball, and that was kind of, and then ended up doing ASB and chapels and government, Bible, taught an English class. Oh, yeah, and then humanities, international relations, world history, government econ, I said that, AP. So I did a little few things here and there.
Yep, and I would say that there is not really a student who's been through our high school in the last 30 or so years who wouldn't smile when your name came up.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't argue with me on that. I mean, you've had this energy, and I know you've been a place, like especially for young men who are wrestling with all kinds of things. They come and talk to you.
That's sweet.
I remember the point man
class. Yes, that was good. That was one of my favorite ministries I've ever had. Yeah, those were great moments.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So one of our most beloved of all time.
Thank you.
So we're going to focus today on broadcast and SFCtv. So I remember being a senior, and there was this new building going in.
That's right.
And it was the library, and they said there was going to be a broadcast studio. And then on my graduation day, the very first event in that library was like a little appetizers before graduation, so that we could see what we wouldn't get to benefit from. And then I remember a couple years later, I come back and you're down there running newscasts.
Yeah.
And so tell me about the start of all this.
Well, it's interesting. I have no background. I'm a history teacher. I got a master's in international relations. That was my thing, social science. And a dear friend of mine, Dave Barkley, got sick and needed someone to help take over the computer classes. And they were building the new school, the new building library, and I was teaching history, and they put me in that building down there to teach with all the new bells and whistles kind of advanced. And so I went into that area teaching history and then helping out Dave as he was sick. And they talked about doing distance learning because Jeff Woodcock was leaving to open Oaks, and they gave us a cash to work it out to build. So we had a little seed money. I had no idea what I was doing. I still don't. I just have a lot of energy, and I run full speed into it.
Yeah.
Amy Kennard, Amy Ant Kennard, class of 92, she has a background. She graduated. She worked in the industry, so she was going to handle it. And I said, well, I know something about editing, and a little bit. I've taken 15 minutes, but I have a lot of energy, and I'm willing to work. And as you know, I like to build things. Yep. I mean, that's my I get bored, restless. And so I said, well, let's do this. Let's do a broadcast. And then they went from once a week to twice a week. And the idea was, and honestly, it's always been, the broadcast is we tell stories. We love Jesus Christ, and we want our kids to be prepared to be competitive and influential in the world, especially in the secular world. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, they have to know They have to be prepared, understand, and articulate what they believe in and how they get there, and be able to use and utilize the tools, the cutting edge tools. So it was always important to me, and I was always visiting other schools and just looking, what are they doing, and how can we get our kids in a position to be successful. And Amy handles the little details. I handle the big pictures, and together we were a great team. And we had a third wheel then, a guy named John Cahill, who was an engineering kind of guy. He lived in the analog world, and so he was great to get us started.
Yeah.
That was the birth of it.
Well, and you and of course Amy's still here working with you, and you guys do an incredible job. And just watching from afar this program grow. I mean, it started with it was a whole bunch of tell me if I'm wrong. It was a whole bunch of work to do one broadcast a month.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
like a 10-minute.
It was a 10-minute broadcast. Right. It was on, I think, Friday mornings, if I remember, and I would pull all-nighters on Thursday nights. with John, we would be finishing the touches.
Yeah,
it was really rolling a boulder up the hill.
Yeah,
and the kids were great, but in order for them to get where they wanted to be, it took time. People don't understand. For every minute of finished video, it's 3 hours of labor. And we were putting on 10 minutes, so that's 30 hours. And we only had them 4 hours a week, 5 in class. So there was a lot of extracurricular work that these guys poured into.
I'm just going to note, so we obviously have a videographer for these podcasts. His name's David DeLauder. I've never seen him nodding so emphatically about the work that goes into video content. So we love him. He does a great job.
It's true. Am I right? Yeah. People they underestimate it.
Yeah.
Would you mind just going out and shoot my wedding for me?
Yeah. So
and then come home and edit it.
Well, okay. It's funny that you say it that way though, because I feel like our broadcast program has grown quite a bit in part through exactly that.
Yes.
Right. And maybe we can start with recent history. The pandemic happens.
Yes.
And so for us, it's we have Sal. We have this great broadcast. We have these kids that know how to do this.
Can you just have them go film this for us?
Yeah, that'll solve all of our problems, right? So we started doing chapel every week.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Hey, no, thank you. Thank you. Where the speaker would come in every week and we'd film it from our studio.
Yeah, that was easy.
Broadcast it into classrooms.
Yeah.
We probably should talk about SFCtv and athletics and I mean, gosh,
that's a side gig.
When was the first football game?
So when Chase McBride was playing a senior year, Isaac Boyd, Paul Kerwin, would that be 2002? Is that the year after you graduated?
Yeah, so it would have been fall 2001, class of 2002.
Okay, that's when it started. So unfortunately for you, it's like the Lucy, Charlie Brown.
Listen, Sal, we are the reason for it all, right? We ushered it all in.
You did. You're the reason why
everybody got the fruits.
We were good, they're gone. Let's do this now.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No, your class is one of my favorite of my top three classes of all time. Yep. Very, very close to you guys. You guys are blessings, by the way. You in particular. So now that we have mutual love, affection, all done. But so what happened was a buddy of mine and the principal at the time, Clark Gilbert, said, "Hey, wouldn't it be fun with all this equipment that we go film a game?" And I'm like, "All right." I didn't know what I was doing, and it was like a 300-pound box that we had built. And it was all analog and all cabled. And John Cahill was the cameraman. Clark was the play-by-play, and I did color.
Yeah.
And that was how it started. And then I was at a game one day, and I thought, this is great for my kids. This will give them real life experience. So then I went and recruited a couple of kids, Eric Svensson, and a couple of kids out of that, and then brought them in. And it was kind of for a while. Then Clark left, and Paul Clark came on. He left, and then I started thinking, wow, this is not part of the curriculum.
This could be a thing.
Right. It's something special. It's beyond just a project. This is a passion thing. And I started having an eye towards, wow, it takes organization. You're telling a story. You've got to get an idea together and then tell it through film. Mm-hmm. Even if it's a football game or a basketball game, you're telling the story of a game.
Yeah.
So that's where I started bringing kids in. And I had broadcast. And broadcast is different. Broadcast is a kind of a buffet of an experience. And I love it for what it is. It's fantastic. It's real life experiences. You're working in groups of 8 or 9 people to create a project. There's no excuses. Our phrase is adapt, improvise, and overcome, because there's always something going to go sideways.
Yep.
And that's real world. And you're not always going to love everyone you work with, but you have to learn to work with people. You have to learn to find your skill set in that group. We have over 30 people in the industry, but more importantly, we have kids who've gone on from our broadcast program and have developed these skills of getting people to be successful in their business, in their world. And that, I think it'd be nice to know that we have a little bit of hand in it, because they're your friends, but then all of a sudden you've got to make them be successful.
Yeah.
And how do you do that without rupturing the friendship?
Right. Well, it's one of the things. Rod talks a lot about entrepreneurship and really wanting us to lean into that. And this was sort of some of our early entrepreneurship, right? You're talking about kids who you give ownership of. You have to create 5 minutes of airtime and make it interesting and good and quality, and they just have to do it, right? And that was kind of for us, one of our first forays into that mindset, which has now grown. Because if we get back to SFCtv, what is SFCtv, and then what is broadcast?
All right, let me flip it around. Let me tell you what broadcast is. Broadcast is part of the curriculum. It meets the A to G requirement. There's an intro to broadcast where you get to go through the process of editing, writing, directing, producing, engineering, sound, anchoring, speech. Amy works with them a lot. Amy does a lot of in front of the camera work. I do the behind the camera work. So you go through and learn in everything, how to interview, how to do satellite interviews. We do everything. We're not married to a broadcast per se. We're married to let's stretch you as far as we can.
Yeah.
That's the intro. And then if you love it and you're good at it, you can become part of advanced, in which you then run and teach intro along with the teachers and help run those kids, and then do your own documentary and put on your own broadcast to the school.
Yeah.
And then outside club of kids who want to be there is SFCtv. And my vision is to continue to grow. Sports is one area. I'd like to do some news, heavy news, some serious. So it's more of a chance to do. SFCtv is a club, I guess, by definition.
But it's doing live events in the community.
It's doing, and it's not just sports. We've done plays, and we've done the Veterans Day.
Yeah.
And what's really great about it is we're getting to the point, because of Rob Homna and all his help. Our equipment is cutting edge finally.
Yeah,
Rob,
I love it. So people know, Rob, our IT director here at the school.
Incredible supporter of this, and his group. Couldn't do it without him. We have a thing called NDI that we're working on, and they call it bleeding edge. And so our kids in SFCtv are having the opportunity to work on literally bleeding edge. That's not even in the universities yet. We're way ahead of the curve on that one.
Yeah.
In fact, I would say we're out there without a net.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, please be patient with us if there's a technical difficulty. But it's these kids doing this work on their own as a club to create a community about an event.
So one of the things about your broadcast and your media arts classes is that they fulfill the art requirements here to graduate, right?
Yeah, it's excellent. Because we require a lot of writing and articulation speech, and it fulfills that side of the fine arts. As well as some of the classes fulfill the practical arts. So we are blessed to have kids who, if this is their voice, they get 3 years to speak it.
Gotcha.
And
yeah, there's a lot of kids who would be nervous about some of the other arts that.
I would be the one.
Yeah.
Unlike you, I wasn't a choir boy.
Let's not go there.
Yeah.
The standards were low back then. So how many did you have this year at doing football games?
Well, let me back up a little bit. The first kid was a kid named Spencer Callant back in 2013. That was he became an engineer.
Right.
So I got him off the cameras. Cameras are basic and you have to learn, but the engineering is really difficult. So he's the first one I brought in, and then a guy named Charles Dudley, and then Chad Bewley. And Chad Bewley, I really want people to know that was a servant of the Lord kid.
Yeah.
And he had a vision of SFCtv, what it is today.
Yeah. He's incredible.
Yeah. And so what happened was he recruited, he talked, he encouraged, he brought kids in. I gave him a list of kids I think would be good, and he put together a team himself as a sophomore and junior. And those are the kids that are seniors now. So this year I have a core of 17 and about 30 that float in and out. A lot of them are graduating, and I just came from a meeting today with the new group of freshmen and sophomores, and there's like 40 of them that want to be. So it's kind of like a beast, but it's a great place to be.
Yeah.
So we averaged 17 kids a game.
Yeah, and it's unbelievable, and like my whole family all over the country watches, right? And there's 100 people here who have that story, right?
Yeah.
And our kids' grandparents get to see them play. And at this point, it is like 90% a student production.
I would say
like
Hunter's the only person that is I have an adult on air with him. That's
Okay.
it. And he's an alumni.
He's an alum.
And more importantly, he's there for mentoring because the kids, he's
Right.
such a godly guy.
Right.
And
But like I get to the game with the football team, and the SFCtv kids they're setting up. They're I mean, they got all this equipment they're bringing in, hooking up all the cables.
it's like a beachhead landing.
Right,
Yeah.
like problem solving, right?
Yes.
Like they get there and it's like, okay, what's the thing that's not going to be how we expected it that
Exactly.
we have to solve?
They walk
And
the field.
do.
They make decisions based on logistics, how to get things going, where they're placing
Yeah.
the cameras, who's going to where. They handle that all themselves. I'm there to advise.
Yeah.
I'll probably do a lot more next year
Yeah.
than this year. But this year, in fact, there were the last 5 games I didn't touch a thing.
Yeah.
These kids were
And the best part, I'm going to share this story if you don't mind. But
Sure.
our first playoff game, you showed up, and so in the playoffs, our county actually has a contract with a broadcast company.
Yes.
That does all the playoff games, right? So they showed up with your students,
Yeah.
showed up at the same time, and I think at one point they leaned over and said something to you, right?
Yeah, they came down and said, "Why are they hiring us? They should be hiring you guys." And it's not me; it's my kids. And it's like, "Do you have a card?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really nice compliment.
Right. And do you think it's a coincidence that next week the county didn't let us broadcast?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we had that game. We had over almost 2,000 views.
Unbelievable.
And
yeah.
yeah.
Unbelievable. Our high school is 450 students.
Exactly.
So that's pretty remarkable.
It has been.
So what is it? If you were going to talk to an 8th grader right now who's thinking about all the things they get involved in, what would your kind of pitch be of here's the reasons why being a part of SFCtv or a part of our broadcast team, you're going to graduate better because of it?
Here's what I do tell them. I say, number one, you're going to be part of incredible people. You're going to be a part of something that's magical. It really is. Synergy. You do what you do, but you put on something that's much more than you'll ever be as far as your ability to create something. So you're a part of something great that serves the community. That brings, I really do believe, that brings our community together.
Yeah.
You get to be with people. You get to work alongside people, older people. You get mentored. You get to try everything. You get to flex your intellectual muscles in areas that you had no idea.
Yeah.
I go back to a kid, Eric Svensson, who was struggling, and the principal came to me and said, he's been kicked out of study hall. He's been kicked out of all these classes. Will you take him? And I'm like, sure, I'll take him. And he's now owns his own company and runs his own production company in Australia. He just found his voice. So I say, try it. You can be in front of the camera or behind the camera or above the camera. Either way, you can find something that you're great at, and then you give that gift to the community.
Yeah.
You know.
I just learned that some of the kids we're having trouble with, I should bring them to
Yeah, I shut my mouth up on that one.
okay, but we love all our kids. They're
we all
great.
yeah.
We're all on a journey.
Like Clark Gilbert says, they all have a voice.
Yeah.
And they need to be heard.
Absolutely. So one thing I do want to touch on about your broadcast class, it's one of my favorite things to do every year. In fact, I think we have it coming up.
Yeah.
Where you give the groups an assignment of basically take a controversial issue and go find some guests to interview about it. Talk about that project and what you're hoping to get out of it.
Yeah, the real goal is my media arts class. The real goal is not so much the controversial topic, it's to learn how to listen actively and to understand. In order to do that, you have to have done the research. No one wants to do the hard work. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage my kids to dig deep on both sides of the topic so that when they have people talking to them about it, they can actively listen and say, explain that idea more. Come back. I want to hear what, and you've been gracious enough to come and speak and be honest.
I love it. It's fun.
It's my favorite project of the year.
Yeah.
It's something that I want to grow more in SFCtv because it requires so much of our students to really have a base of discernment, an understanding of their political and social and most importantly spiritual views of topics, and to be able to listen to someone else articulate their thoughts and then engage in a way that brings out a resolution. Yeah. So it sounds as cool as it is.
It's awesome.
It's my favorite time of the year, and it's coming up. We have you and Steve, a couple other people lined up. And the kids are a little nervous now. And
Which
it's
is
great.
good. I mean,
exactly.
that's healthy nerves, right? I mean, that's part of, like you said, it's in crisis a lot.
Yes.
Right? It feels, like I got 5 minutes to do this well. And
And the great thing about it is we do it with the full IFB, person in your ear IFB. And so the person in the control room is helping that person out there, but it's like, let's get deeper. And it's a great experience to watch these kids. A couple of years ago was a phenomenal experience when you came in because those kids really tackled that project. I'm looking forward to this year too.
So I asked you about give the pitch on the way in, but let's talk about the way out. So what in your mind, someone who's spent 4 years in broadcast SFCtv, some kind of combination of the two, what are they leaving with? What do you expect and hope to see from them when they're done with your program?
Well, that's great. I expect them to be able to handle all shapes and sizes of complications, and we say be a duck. Maybe on underneath you're paddling like crazy, but above you're calm, cool, and collected, and you're allowed your mind to focus on solutions. So I think I've seen our kids come out with the ability to handle crisis, to fix, solve, to know what they're talking about, to understand what they believe. And most importantly, to be able to work in various groups, shapes, sizes, and beliefs, and be successful. That's what I'm most proud about, is almost all of our kids come out of this program with the capabilities to write, to articulate, to speak, and to be a part of something bigger than them, and be successful.
Yeah, and I'll just add from my seat, you've created a home for a lot of kids on campus, and we've talked about that with some of our other teachers who are involved in a lot of these, not just class but outside of class things. And you've got that crew that is always lunchtime or after school or whatever, coming down, hanging out, and that allows you to speak truth into their lives and to love those kids. So thanks, Sal, for what you do now and for what you've done for the knuckleheads of the past, like myself.
Yeah. Well, I'm a reformed knucklehead.
So. That's right. We just help each other.
Yeah.
So
I'm just ahead of you. That's all.
Yeah. Well, good, because I still need help. Well, Sal, I mean, you and I could talk forever.
Yes, we should.
We probably will, actually, after we turn the cameras off. Yeah. But thank you so much for being here today, and just for continuing now for 34 years to pour into our students and to show them Jesus and to teach them a whole bunch of skills.
I appreciate that.
So
thank you.
And thanks to our listeners and viewers. This has been another episode of our Eagle Perspective podcast. If this is your first one or you want to see other ones, you can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, or other places where podcasts are found. Our video podcasts are on YouTube. Please check out our other episodes. We will be back soon.